revolving around them, but a 2-part movie for being the last movie. You know what I mean?
What if you ended 7 on like a big cliffhanger?
Well, that's what I mean. Where like 7 and 8 will be directly tied. Like Fallout is a sequel to Rogue Nation, but just like what is it? Matrix Revolutions and Reloaded are like almost like 2 parts of the same story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they might do something like that with this, where it's like Kill Bill 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mission Impossible 7 and 8 would be one story.
It is maybe that's why they're having 2 movies too, because they came up with a story, but it was too big for just one movie. And as we talked about, like 6 was the longest of the movies, and so probably they feel like the only way to up the ante even more is to have a longer movie. And they probably looked at it and said, "Well, let's cut it into 2 movies." So like they did with Avengers. Avengers 3 was going to be one movie, and they got split into Endgame and Infinity War. So there's a precedent for it. I see it.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I think that they're going to do. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be great. Now, normally that's kind of where we would want to end these recap episodes, just kind of with these questions here. But I do have a question for you for this franchise of movies that I want to ask you about to consider. And I haven't prepped you for this question at all, but how do you feel looking at these movies with the stakes continually getting risen and higher and higher stakes all the time with these stunts that Tom Cruise is doing? Now, I know that they do take a lot of preparations, and they do try and make them as safe as possible, but they are really pushing the limits with these stunts. And it's like, when are they, like, they may go too far at some point. Like, I don't want to see Tom Cruise die from one of these stunts, but they are going to have to keep amplifying the stakes every time they make a movie, because that's how they've done it for the last 6 movies. Are you worried that they're going to push it too far and that somebody might get hurt?
Well, first of all, Brandon, thank you for taking it to a very dark place. Didn't expect that.
You're very welcome.
I mean, of course, that's always a danger when you're doing these things, especially, as you said, he is getting older, so he can't recuperate as fast, or you think so, as he could have maybe 15 years ago. I don't think they'd ever push it to the point of being truly like unsafe. I mean, I guess there's risk with all these, but risk is their business, Brandon. That's why they're aboard these movies. To quote Captain Kirk. So I think that he's surrounded himself with enough top-notch professionals where they would not. I think if something bad did ever happen, it would be a completely freak and fluke accident. It wouldn't be because they did something way too insane. Because at the end of the day, these are just movies, and they're not worth someone's health or life. So I would think that they would not push the boundaries that far. So I mean, this isn't, this is not the gladiatorial arena here. This is just a movie. So let's make sure everybody's safe and take it from there. I don't think they'll do that.
Yeah. See, I don't think that they will, and I do believe that they will always try and maintain as safe a possible record as they can. But I mean, like, even in the last one, Tom Cruise broke a leg, right? He broke a foot in the last film, and he's broken ribs, and he's dislocated stuff, and he's hurt himself, right? And yes, he is getting older, right? He's still in way better shape than I am, right? And I'm comfortable admitting that. But with, like, even with the helicopter, like, just one wrong thing could result in a pretty disastrous accident,
Well, to take it a little lighter, do you think they'll really jump the shark and go into space in either one of these next 2 movies?
They might, and I don't know that would be jumping the shark, but because space is a fun place to go. And,
I mean, what is this? It's Moonraker and Jason X. Whenever these franchises that go to space, you're just like, all right, you've run out of ideas. So I don't know. I mean, the joke is always that Fast and Furious is going to go into space at some point, right? But I don't know. Like,
Jason X was pretty good, man.
The International Space Station has been hijacked. I mean, I don't know. Like, it would be pretty ridiculous. And you can't do any. They're going to do the first like action scene in space, right? With an IMAX camera, and Tom Cruise is out there.
They might have to. Like, that would be. You're not far off from what they might do. Right? I mean, they might do that.
I mean, you think about privatized space travel, right? That's the future more so than government space travel. And like Virgin and SpaceX and all these guys, right? Perhaps they would include something like that, when they could truly film a fight scene in zero gravity. I mean, I'm just trying to think the way these guys think. So I could see that to kind of take your question to a lighter place. That's my answer, but I'm gonna stay with it there. Again, like Tom Cruise, arguably one of the biggest movie stars in the world, surrounds himself with top-notch professionals, and I don't think he would even do something if he didn't feel confident that it's safe enough.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So I wanted to ask the question. I think it's a valid question to ask. And I definitely don't want to see it go there, but I'm a little bit concerned because they do keep pushing the limits. And I mean, like watching some of the bonus features for this last film, Fallout, was just like, man, this is crazy. I mean, he's doing high-speed motorcycle chases without helmets. But
he's got sunglasses most of the time, so he's okay.
Yeah, but one slip and he could, he's got Tom Cruise's brains are all over Paris, right? So,
Brandon, you just keep going to these dark places. I'm trying to pull us back.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I love Tom Cruise so much. I have a crush on him, and I don't want him to die.
Ultimately with these movies, it's crazy to think, this has to be one of the most successful franchises, period. Maybe not money-wise, because we're not talking Marvel money. None of these movies make $1 billion, right? But it's just so impressive as we wrap up our conversation here about these movies for now, because we'll come back for 7 and 8 down the road. But man, like you got to give it to these guys, especially Tom Cruise, because he's been the one constant driving. Because Paramount would have wrapped this thing up after 2 or 3, if it wasn't for him driving the way, getting producers, finding directors, collaborating with other creatives to make these things happen. And here this is a franchise that started in 1996. Back when the eugenics wars ended, Brandon. 1996 for our Star Trek fans out there, you know what I'm talking about. And now we're talking about it is 2019, and we're still talking about Mission Impossible with the same cast. That's Tom Cruise, right? But something I would never want to see, honestly, is this rebooted, because like when 7 and 8 are done, let it sit for a while. The only thing I could see them maybe trying after this is making it like a television show, but not on like broadcast TV, on one of these streaming platforms, Netflix, CBS All Access, Hulu. That's kind of the future I see for this franchise after the 7 and 8, because you need to, kind of like with Lord of the Rings, right? Lord of the Rings was just this amazing seminal event in cinema, right? His trilogy, and then The Hobbit came and whatever, that's his own conversation. But now they're going to make it an Amazon Prime TV show, So I think the future of this franchise after 7 and 8 would be, like a marquee, high-budget, tight 10-episode, 13-episode show on a streaming service. That's what I see the future as. I think you don't reboot. You don't come out, in 2021 or whatever, right? When the 8th come out, you don't announce in a couple of years, hey, we're rebooting Mission Impossible. Like, no. I think a TV show is the way to go when those are done.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So... excellent. Right on. Well, that's our recap. That's a recap of the Mission Impossible films. We hope you've enjoyed the coverage. Tune in next week as we start our short series on the Pet Sematary films with Pet Sematary from 1989, Pet Sematary 2, and then the 2019 remake of Pet Sematary. So we're going to go a little bit scary for the next short while. So I hope you stick around for that. It's going to be some fun discussions.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited with for franchise fatigue here. We're going to jump all around genres.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're going to get some action, some sci-fi, some drama, some horror. Like, that's what's fun about this podcast, is we can go anywhere we want with it, and we hope you guys will be along for the ride with us. So Brandon, when you're not hanging on to the side of an airplane with no parachute, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. You can find me on the Trek FM network with Melodic Treks and Warp 5. You can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network with my friends Chris and Tom, where we talk about Hitchcock films on Good Evening and Alfred Hitchcock podcast. And every once in a while, I'm on the Cinematic Sound Radio Network with Breaking the Waves, which is an electronic film score program. Zach, where can people find you when you're not riding a motorcycle?
That is so lame, Brandon. Well, you can find me personally on Twitter at MoronZach. That's MOOREONZACH. I'm also the host of my own podcast, Always Well into Smallville. We talk about the Young Superman show over there. You can find us on Twitter at Always Smallville with one S. I'm also the host of Standard Orbit, Trek FM's original series podcast, talking about all things old and new Captain Kirk and the Enterprise. You can find us on Twitter at Trek FM.
Until next time, this podcast will self-destruct in 5 seconds. And just so you know, I'm actually tweeting Tom Cruise right now to tell him that you think his motorcycle stunts are like lame and boring.
That's not what it's lame. You lame. All the stunts in Mission Impossible.
It's tweeted.
But Brandon, where can people find you when you're not running really fast somewhere? I mean, that's the equivalent of what you just told me. So.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.